For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod driveline components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back from Vegas, baby. Vegas, we're on the air with our NHRA results show. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, will be joining us just seconds from now. He's still in Vegas. We're going to be talking about it all. The Vegas 4-wide Nationals, pretty amazing. Antron Brown and Brittany storm from the first quad to the final quad together. And Antron goes out there, gets the job done, wins the race. Of course, Dallas Glenn goes back-to-back, first two-time winner in pro stock, back-to-back race wins. Maybe when we talk to Dallas, maybe he'll be on the golf course again. That'll be kind of cool. Or maybe he'll just be, back at the shop. We will find out soon enough, since Charlotte is next. And funny car, Matt Hagan has now won 3 out of 4. And so all of a sudden, the storylines of the season, they're changing kind of rapidly. Like, oh, it's so competitive and who's got it going on? Suddenly Hagan wins 3 out of 4 races. And it makes you wonder, what's up with that? We'll talk about it. And they get the first Tony Stewart racing double of sorts, as Tony Stewart wins his first ever drag race. And pretty amazing to think about. And what I thought about, we're going to have Reinhardt on, obviously, and we're going to talk about this. And Tony has volunteered to come on the show later on in the week or next week, so we're going to talk about that. But this isn't drag racing history. It's racing history. It extends far beyond our wonderful world of drag racing that we all love to IndyCar and NASCAR and sprint cars and well beyond, because Tony has gone on to do this. I had heard that J.R. Todd had used a quote on the TV show that I feel like I just saw A.J. Foyt win a drag race. And that's exactly what it is. It's an amazing historic moment. Now, it was in the Lucas Oil Series, which is great. And it wasn't a 4-wide race, which is great because we have the potential for a couple of more first-time wins, right? The first 2-wide, and then the first, obviously, Camping World Series race, if that were to happen. So we're going to get into all that. Hopefully you guys will share the show. Let's get it out there for all the drag racing fans out there. I talked to a lot of fans, and many of them know about the show, but many of them are like, what? There's more drag racing on the internet I can watch? I can check out my favorite drivers as they're interviewed? And the answer is yes, they can. We just got to let them know about it. And we're working on that marketing budget. We're working on it. Thanks to folks like Bernie's Speed Shop. Josh Hart gets to the final round. Little mini controversy about staging and that second quad. Sean Langdon said that Josh takes a little bit longer than most other drivers. I'll be very honest. We're going to talk with Alan about it. We're going to dig deeper in the next 2 weeks, but I need to know more before I voice a strong opinion. What I can voice a strong opinion about is Bernie Speed Shop up there in Ocala, Florida. If you're looking for a frame-off restoration, if you're buying a classic car, if you're selling a classic car, not just classic cars, but exotic cars, they have got an amazing program over there. If you're in the film industry and you're looking for props for sets in the automotive range, they've got it all. Go to Bernies.com to find out more, BURNYZZ.com to find out more. Folks at Phillips Connect in the mix as well. Smart trailer technology for the transportation industry. And it's all about brand awareness. All you have to do is go out on the highways and look at how many people are out there over the road in commerce, bringing, delivering, returning, whatever it may be, packages, toilet paper. Here in South Florida, we need gasoline right now after all that flooding. Like, gasoline's got to get in. We need it. It all comes by truck. America rolls on the wheels of trucks. It's just a sad fact or a great fact, depending on how you want to put it. But this is how we get our stuff. And we need to monitor it to be safe, to be on time, whether it be the weights, the lights, the safety features, the brakes. That's what Phillips Connect helps you monitor. And it is the ounce of prevention way before something negative happens. Use Phillips-Connect. And if you'd like a firsthand introduction to the people that matter, you may email me, Joe, at WFOradio.com. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. We always play their spot at the start of this show. It's an exercise that I do all the time, and I encourage you to do it too. Just look at the contingency decals of the race winners. Big money bracket races, .90 races, top sportsman, top dragster, pro mod. Just look at the contingency decals, and you will see so many FTI performance decals. It is ridiculous. They are the top of the field, top of the industry, but they don't just make transmission parts and pieces for race winners. They make them for your street car, your muscle car, your twin turbo 1,000 horsepower. Go to the car show on Saturday Night Car. Go to FTIperformance.com to find out more information. Foggett, Gary Stinnett, Steve Williams, partnering together to bring this great new company to market. Foggett, it comes in a can that looks like this. You got a contingency program out there for Lucas Oil Series racers, but to not use Foggett on your racing engine that has cost you so much time, money, and effort to build is really kind of an oversight, maybe. Like, I don't need it. You definitely do, to protect that cylinder wall finish at the conclusion of racing at the end of the night. You finish, you're putting it in the trailer, you pull that ignition wire, you fog it down, you spin over the starter, you fog it down, and protect the inside of that racing engine from micro corrosion and rust and condensation with a little bit of Foggit. FOGGIT.com. Check them out. They've got a YouTube channel as well. Go subscribe so you can learn more. And we've got Gary, and we're going to have Steve on the show to talk a little bit more in depth about Foggit in the coming weeks. It's been a hot start to the season. And then Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology, TotalSeal.com. Engine builders, racers, anybody who's really trying to unlock the hidden horsepower on your car. If maybe you've got an engine shop and you just, do rebuilds, guess what? Total Seal is for you as well. A lot of the OEs, Total Seal is supplying the piston rings in many different ways. If you need one ring, if you need a set of rings, go to their website, TotalSeal.com. And that's where you can hear the Hidden Horsepower podcast, which I want to put you on to one of those episodes right now, which is Mike Copeland, who has been on the razor's edge of combustible hydrogen burning engines. I know a lot of you guys know about the news and EPA, and they have kind of set the miles per gallon limit way out there into the future. And a lot of people are talking about, oh, this is going to bring on a lot of electric vehicles. And that is not necessarily true. It's kind of the narrative and the idea that people have right now, but they're just setting the fleet miles per gallon limit per amount of carbon, et cetera, and so on, blah, 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 to a number. The way that the number is achieved is still open to debate. And combustible hydrogen emits zero emissions. Zero. Water is the emission for combustible hydrogen. And you still have the sound, and you still have the piston, and you still have the rocker arm and the connecting rod and all of those things. And a lot of people don't even know about this. And major manufacturers like Toyota are all in on it, which is interesting since Toyota brought us the Prius, but it just shows you how things evolve. Total Seal is involved with this as well. So go to Hidden Horsepower and find the episodes with Mike Copeland that talk about combustible hydrogen. And that'll calm your nerves a little bit, because this is something that I think is big, and people involved in motorsport that really want to keep the concept of combustion going. But what are we combusting? Well, that is still open to debate, and there will be a sound and a rev, and all the engines that we have are still totally applicable. It's a neat, interesting way the future could go. So go check out that episode, TotalSeal.com. But right now, racing gas and methanol and nitromethane are what we want to be combusting. Thank you very much. We're not talking about that. We're talking about over-the-road applications. Later on in the show, we will tell you about how to become a WFO Patreon. Later on in the show, we'll tell you about Marvin Rodax, coffeeandgrills.com, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, and samtech.edu. But right now, we're going to kick it back out to the Strip in Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us now. What's up, Alan? How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually not at the Strip. I'm hanging out at the hotel today. I went to the Monday Nationals yesterday, and today is like ketchup and laundry and all that kind of stuff day. So I'm just hanging out at the hotel.
I saw that nice couch in the background, and I thought that was the room behind the announce booth at first, but that works for me. And I think that's a tip of the cap to Jeff Foster and everybody at the Strip, that their racetrack looks just as nice as a fine hotel room on the Strip.
Yeah, there. The Strip at Las Vegas is a palace. It's a beautiful place to go, and the great venue, great stadium, great everything. They gave us good weather this weekend, and we put on a heck of a show.
Yeah, we really did. First four wide of the year. We got back-to-back 4-wide races, and this year, less often than ever before, did I hear, I'm not that into 4-wide. Now, I'm not instigating it. I don't want people to share their opinions with me because I'm kind of over it. We spoke with so many race fans during a couple of unfortunate prolonged oil downs that happened, and they were first-time drag racing fans. They were loving whatever it was they were seeing. They were definitely under the demographic that most people think are drag racing fans. I'm talking attractive young people in their 20s coming out to enjoy the party that is the first Vegas race, and they reported directly to me they loved it, whatever it happened to be, and they were having a great time, and they were sure to come back. I think that debate is kind of now over after our spring race in Vegas was, what I heard through the grapevine, up over pre-pandemic. So, I guess we still had more seats to sell, and we're working on it. We tried very hard, but a lot of great positive data streams right there.
Well, and an interesting dynamic in Vegas. I don't know how many people other than hardcores, I'm sure you noticed it, because of the crowds that they had last year, they expanded the grandstands on the spectator side. Vegas has the huge permanent grandstand on the west side of the racetrack, but the east side of the racetrack, they bring in temporary stands. And since last year, the crowd was so big, they expanded. They had more seats over there. So the crowd was up, but you still, can't call it a sellout. And there's one thing that NHRA has never done, as far as I know anyway, and that is fudge those. If you've sold a ticket for every available seat, that's a sellout, and that is industry standard. That's not NHRA making stuff up. That's any basketball arena, any football arena, any concert venue, anything. If you have sold a ticket for every available seat, that's a sellout. And if we don't do that, we don't announce it. I mean, I remember one time at Epping a couple of years ago, they were like 45 seats short. But they said, we're not fudging those numbers. If we didn't sell it out, we didn't sell it out. So the crowd was strong. They saw a great show. And Vegas is smart enough to understand when ticket sales are trending high, when you're going to have more people, you're going to let's make sure that everybody's got a place to sit. And so, does that cost us an opportunity to say it was sold out? Maybe. But is it good that everybody that got there and even the general admission ticket holders had a place to go sit and watch the race? I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that side of the racetrack was by the low zone, the party side of the racetrack. And he had fun. We had fun. It was just, again, had a conversation with those two, the Jasons, who've got their own podcast. I'm sure they'll be doing some things, talking a little bit about it as we are doing interviews with winners and recapping the race. They'll talk about the party side of things. But when we go there in October, it's Halloween. That's got its own character. And the championship is on. There are some teams that are in the middle of a really intense situation. I don't want to say this one is just for fun, but it's a lot easier to take it lightly than it is October. And that was kind of the vibe out there. It was a great crowd. I was that park area. Oh my God, you saw that. I was struggling to stay down there as long as is possible.
You should have just stayed. What are they going to do?
Right. We'll just do stuff from the park down here. It was a great time. Before we get into Camping World Series, Lauren says, and Lauren is a weekly listener, she goes, I can't believe Tony Stewart finally got an alcohol win. I can't wait to see what he does. I don't know if finally is the right word, though, right? Like Vegas fall was his first race, and he ran the Baby Gators and ran the Gator Nationals, and here we are. So I think it was his fourth start. Maybe I'm off by one, but...
Well, he ran Pomona.
Oh, and he ran Pomona. Okay, so 5. That's pretty great. Like he waited long enough. He had a little frustration. He felt the burn of a near victory by 1 inch to Madison Payne, and he goes out there and he got after it. Like that was a great driving job by Tony Stewart. He's going to come on the show later on in the week, but I say it's racing history, not just drag racing history. I'd like your take on this because I think it's a big deal, and there is a Stewart effect happening in drag racing right now.
Well, no question. He has got many fans from everything that he's done over the years, and they're going to pay attention to what he does. So if he comes over here and is successful, that's going to bring some new eyeballs. I thought the interesting thing, he's in a brand new car this year, that car that was built specifically for him, and it didn't run. The performance hadn't been there. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not, telling you anything that Rich wouldn't tell you or that Tony wouldn't tell you. He said, they brought out the new car and they took it to Gainesville. They did some testing and it just really wasn't as fast as it needed to be. It was okay. And after Pomona, the McPhillips family is very competitive and they want to make sure that everybody that drives one of their cars has got the ability to win and has got what they need to do. They loaded up and went to Bakersfield and tested for a couple of days, trying to get it sorted out, trying to figure out why that car wasn't as quick as the other cars in their stable. And obviously that hard work paid off. When they got to Las Vegas, the car was quicker. It was certainly consistent. And I think you have to commend Tony for the job that he did on the starting line as well. Tony is a competitor. And if you tell him this is what you are going to have to work on, this is what you're going to have to concentrate on, he is going to put the effort forth and make it happen. And when it comes down to, he won that race by 1.43027 or something like that inches. If he's a thou later on the light, he loses. So he's got to do his job on the starting line. The car, as I said, was better, and it ended up being, the amount of exposure that they're going to get from that is pretty amazing because that's going everywhere. It's already highlights here, highlights there. I clicked on a NASCAR highlight thing from Martinsville the other day, and at the end of that, the next thing that came up was Tony Stewart in NHRA. So that is going to put more eyeballs and draw more attention to us, and I think it's terrific. And I also love what he said in his interview. People ask him about, when are you going to go do this? And he said, why? I'm enjoying this class. These cars are fast. It's good people. It's fun. It's a good group to race with. I'm having fun doing what I'm doing right now. I'm enjoying the competition. I'm enjoying the ride. He doesn't feel that he has to prove, okay, well, if I'm not top fuel, he doesn't feel like he needs to do that. He's really happy where he is right now. And I also appreciate, and he and I had this conversation, we spent some time together, went to Bristol the other day, and the fact that he is putting a spotlight on that category. I have long felt that a lot of fans miss out when Top Fuel's over with and they go, okay, well, it's time to go back into the pits. And it's like, guys, we got cars coming up here that go 280 miles an hour. It's not like we're going from Top Fuel to skateboards. We're going into some really fast, really competitive, really cool cars. And people now are going to be paying more attention to that. And I hope that it does good things for all of the Lucas Series, not just the Alcohol Dragster and Funny Car, but all of the Lucas Series.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's something in the character of humanity, like whatever it is, oh, that's great. What's next, right? Well, oh, you've achieved this. Well, yeah, but that's what's next. What are you going to do next? What's next? Garlett said it. The second we go 340, people are going to be talking about 350. And the second you go 350, people will be talking about 355. It's just the way people are. Tony's running for a championship in a fuel this year. That's the goal. Focus on that. And, I would love to see him step up when he's ready at some point, but it doesn't have to happen right now. Let's enjoy this. And it is great for Mike Coughlin out there and the McPhillips family, who we do have an interview that I'm going to run at the conclusion of our interview. I talked to them by the winner's circle, right? Troy Coughlin and Mike, who both have driven for the McPhillips and with the McPhillips family, were hanging out, and they all kind of give their take on what went down. And they talk about the test session as well, and whether it was a good test session or a bad test session or otherwise. But it was a big double up for Tony Stewart. But let's start off with Top Fuel, where Antron Brown gets his first win of the season. And we've said it many times on the microphone. U.S. Nationals last year, Antron breaks through for the victory, but they started to change their performance on the Western swing and have been really strong, stormed up through the field during the countdown, and have that performance. They were in a 3-person quad in the first round. Antron and Brittany advanced. In the 4-person quad of the second round, Antron and Brittany advanced. And then in the final round, Antron, Brittany, Steve Torrence, and Josh Hart squared off with Antron victorious 76-9, 76-0, 77-4, 79-1. It doesn't get much better than that. My goodness, what a great day of racing, especially that final round.
Yeah, it was. And that, to me, wasn't the most impressive quad we had all weekend. And I'm sorry, but I can't remember which one it was. But I remember sitting there looking at the scoreboard thinking, I don't remember ever 4 330-mile-an-hour runs all on the same quad. And that happened earlier in the weekend. The Strip is a great facility. Jeff Foster goes to very, very long, puts a lot of pain into making sure that his racetrack is ready to go when the safety safari comes in and starts their stuff. They finished up the Spring Fling Million just literally a couple of days before we were coming in to do this. And Jeff was out there with his staff, scraping the track to 700 feet, making sure that when the safety safari got there, they were going to have the track that they needed so that we'd have 4 competitive lanes, because you never want a race to be decided by lane choice, and it wasn't. You could obviously win in all 4 lanes. We saw that throughout the course of the weekend, but Jeff puts a lot of pride into making sure that happens. The safety safari puts a lot of pride into that as well, and you could win from any place on the racetrack. When we ran the first round of alcohol, sitting up there in the tower realizing the first 3 quads of alcohol cars, the car with number 1 lane choice chose a different lane, and I think that's just a testament to the track wasn't going to be the determining factor. If you could make your car run, you could win no matter where you were. And the fans saw some great 4-wide racing all weekend long.
Absolutely. And look, we got Rich McPhillips is out there. He's commenting in the audience. It's like the best part about WFO is that we've got like VIP listeners out there commenting in the audience. And he says, amen. And what I think he means is that we need Tony in his car for as long as is possible. Right? It's like we need Tony running that car as long as is possible.
But the thing is, and I have always believed this, and I still do, people don't buy tickets to watch cars race. People buy tickets to watch people race. And anybody that doesn't believe that, if you give me Kyle Larson, Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, and pick a fourth, and 4 go-karts, I can sell 50,000 tickets in a Walmart parking lot, because people will come out to watch Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, and people will come to watch people race. People are going to watch the alcohol categories now because they want to watch Tony race. And what we need to do is we need to promote the other people that are there, right? We need Doug Gordon. The story of the whole Gordon family is amazing. We need people to see that these guys, this family is doing it this way. And the amount of people and personalities are there, whether it's Jasmine Salinas, whether it's Taylor Vetter, whether it's Joey Severance, you look at Sean Cowie and what he's been through to get, but there are so many stories out there. And what we need to do is get the fans need to get to know those people, so that they will want to come and watch them race, stay in the grandstands after Top Fuel to watch them race, come to a regional event when you don't have quite as much pomp and circumstance, you don't have to deal with as much traffic and as much to come watch these people race. That's important, and I think years ago in the NASCAR deal, when Jeff Gordon decided he was going to run a handful of what was at the time Busch races, and every racetrack out there went, oh, come run ours, come run, because they knew if Jeff Gordon is in this race, people are going to come to watch him. They're not coming because of the car. They're coming because of the people. And hopefully Tony will put a big enough spotlight that the fans will realize there are some really cool people that are out there racing in the alcohol ranks, and that will just help everybody.
I expand that to the entire sport. I know, that's our problem. What's one of the big problems in drag racing? A wealth of blessings. Too many interesting people to cover in the amount of time that a normal person would be able to pay attention to any one thing. You got the 3-hour show on Sunday. We launched WFO in 2009 to fill that void. There wasn't a lot going on, and the internet wasn't rocking like it is now. We certainly couldn't do live streams like this. But look at what has happened, right? The expansion of how many different shows, how many people are doing shows, how much content. You get content about specific things now, like drag radio, pro mod specific. You got drivers doing it, like Stevie Fast and Lyle, who I miss those guys, by the way. I miss the pro mod guys being out there. Can't wait to see them back. But we're getting there, and there is no shortage of great personalities to fill those roles. And so we'll just have to keep on going. All right, let's dive into any other points on Top Fuel. Let's talk about the Josh Hart, Sean Langdon. Langdon gets timed out. He made a comment about Josh being slow. I've seen some more traffic on it. I want to be very straightforward. I said it at the start of the show. I got to dig deeper before I give some sort of like Joe take on it. Perhaps you've got more information. I'm under the impression, like of course Josh would seem slow. He is the newest of all those drivers at this deal. And if NHRA wanted you to go much quicker, the number wouldn't be 7 seconds, right? It would be 6 seconds. Like, that's my hot take on the deal about the amount of time that it takes. But maybe I'm missing something. And Sean, he got timed out, but he took responsibility, which I thought was really cool. That he's like, man, I was trying to make a statement and it backfired. But what is your perspective as someone who's seen a lot more of this?
Well, almost all the drivers have their own routine. Okay, John Force is slow, and everybody knows it, and everybody just adjusts for it. When you're racing Robert, you're racing Cruz. Cruz is not the fastest guy out there either. But when you're racing JR, when you're racing Robert, when you're racing Matt, you know that they're going to go in there. It's going to be pre-stage. Okay, off the pedal, pump on, bing, bing. Everybody's going to be in within 3 seconds or 4 seconds. John has a longer routine, and everybody knows that. So when you're racing John, you go up there and go pre-stage. Okay, make sure the belt's set. Okay, now start your routine, and you and John will be in within a couple of seconds. And John will go in first. But he just does kind of the same thing every time. Josh is not the fastest out there. Okay, when you're racing Josh, you just should adjust for that. I mean, it's a mental adjustment. I think that the only mistake that Sean made was that he overlooked the 4 wide part of the equation. That was the ingredient. Because if Sean goes up there in a 2 wide race and he's got it in his head, I'm not staging first. I'm going to make him go, okay, then sit there and wait. And once Josh goes in, if you want to sit there another 3 or 4 seconds and show him, hey, look, man, this is, if you're going to treat me like this, I'm going to treat you like that. Fine. But you have to take into consideration the 4 wide element. And the 4 wide element is 7 seconds after the first car stages. And I think Sean was so focused on, I'm going to make Josh go first. He just lost his mental focus that the clock was running as soon as whoever was in lane 1 went in and lit the bulb. And Josh did go in front of Sean, and less than half a second later, Sean red lit because the 7 second timer had already started. So I don't think we've seen the end of this, but I think we've seen the end of it until after we leave Charlotte, because I think when those 2 guys run heads up 2 wide, that's when it'll come back up, or there will be a conversation someplace and the 2 of the guys will hopefully put it behind them and just go on.
Well, exactly. But that having been said, a little driver staging controversy here at the start of the season, that's never a bad thing. I just want to get to the bottom of it. I don't want negativity. I want people to, go out there and compete. So we'll see. I'm sure there's also more to the story. There's always a little more to the story. So we'll spend the next week or so trying to get to the bottom of it, hopefully treat everybody very fairly. And guess what? We get to do 4 wide again, right? That's the best part about 4 wide back to back. A great job by the schedule makers to push these 2 together. The only thing we need is the 4 wide double up bonus that I'm trying to get sold out there. Come on, somebody. What's the right number, Alan? Come on, go on the record, Alan. What's the right number? The 4 wide double up bonus. Is 10 grand too little?
I don't know. I think that I'm trying to think of something. I mean, if it was monetary, that would be cool. But if they would come up with some kind of a award, a trophy, something that doesn't necessarily get given away every year. Maybe it sits there for 3 or 4 years until somebody wins it. I think that would be bigger than the money. I think that would every racer out there like to have a little extra cash? Certainly, but in order to have I have this prize that nobody else has, or nobody else has won, or I think that would be a better incentive. I would enjoy that anyway.
So the folks at ZMAX, maybe they're watching, maybe they're not watching, but listen, it's not too late, okay? There's 3 drivers that have got a chance to do the double up bonus and, make something. Or maybe they already had something made, Alan, and I'm like scooping the whole deal and ruining it, like who knows? But which is possible for people who throw out ideas for a living. Like maybe someone has got that idea and they're working on it and they're on the finish line, and now we have just ruined it. But I'm sorry. It should happen, though. If Antron Brown wins both double-up races, there should be some sort of extra thing thrown on top, like a cherry on top of the sundae. All right, let's talk.
Toyota could give him a Tundra 4x4.
Toyota could get, and the Toyota people just got mad at you. Like, what?
Well,
I get your point.
If Matt wins, the Ram people can give him a 4x4.
4x4 is the point. And that right there, guys, is the genius of Alan Reinhart. He is operating at a higher level. A 4x4 by Toyota. Oh, my gosh. They should want to sponsor the whole thing just for that concept alone.
Well, no, for the Toyota drivers. If Matt wins, then Ram should give him a 4x4.
This is genius. This is why.
If Dallas wins, he could get a Silverado 4x4.
That's right. This is what WFO is all about. You should click subscribe immediately. This is where the plans of the future are hatched. The schemes of the future are hatched right here on WFO. All right, let's talk Funny Car, where Funny Car, the final round came down to Tim Wilkerson, which was great to see Wilk have a good, strong, solid weekend. Chad Green, good weekend. Daniel Wilkerson is my favorite crew chief interview. I love it. He did not say the F word. He said booger. Okay? Everybody got that? Booger. John Force, Matt Hagan. So many different angles there. Alexis was having such a great weekend. So many people were having good weekends. Great to see Jeff Deal. Oh, my gosh. Jeff Deal wins a round, has a good run, ran 4.00 in the first round. Man, that's awesome for Jeff Deal and those guys.
Career best.
Career best for Jeff Deal. Says that Stephen Piercy from Rat is wanting to be more involved. And I don't know how much I can say, but we're going to see him a little more this year. And that's what Jeff Deal needs, to focus, and he needs some money. Focus and money, and look what can happen. And his guys, Jeff Deal's guys, they're for real, the real deal, Jeff Deal. But in the end, we had ourselves a great final round quad. John Force 4 flat, Hagan really uncorks one. They've got that innovative new chassis going on, 394. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But the big three, Robert, Caps, Hagan, and everybody else trying to fight their way into that bubble. You know, some would call it, there's a lot of ways to refer to things when there's a small group of people that are at the very top. But Matt Hagan wins 3 of 4 races. Suddenly that conversation is going to start changing if this dominance continues.
And they're running very well. I mean, obviously to win 3 or 4, and Dickie has said over and over, you know, we're still working on our new combination. We're still sorting out the new chassis and working on some other stuff. If there's more performance there to be had, then, man, those guys look pretty scary. I spoke to Dickie a little bit in the winter circle, and he said, you know, one of the things they've been working on is trying to figure out how to run 395. He said last year, if conditions were there, we could run 385 everywhere we went. But when conditions weren't there, we struggled to run 395, to run 398. We didn't have a combination, didn't have a car that was happy in that zone. And obviously in the summertime and in the hot part of the year, you're not going to run a whole lot of 484 and 485. So that's part of what they were working with. You know, the track temperature in the mid 120s for the afternoon, that kind of dictated a little bit of the performance that, you know, you had to draw back a little bit. You weren't going to go out there and run 384 or 385. So they certainly look like they're making strides in that area. You know, testing on Monday was something that both Dickie and Matt mentioned, and then they didn't do it because, well, they won with Tony on Sunday, and I wasn't there and haven't seen any footage, and you can't prove I know anything. But I'm assuming that they celebrated, and at some point during the celebration said, you know, maybe we don't need to test tomorrow. Let's just go ahead and brush that off. And I'm thinking that was, you know, just a strictly logical business decision that was probably made, you know, in an office in a very professional environment with, you know, consultants and advice coming from all interested parties. That's what I'm thinking.
That's very wise. That would be a wise decision to do that, right? Nitromethane is very expensive. There's a lot of things that are going on out there. Very similar to me.
Ron Capps, however, was out there testing yesterday.
Give us a quick testing report with what you can say. You know, testing, is it private? Is it not private? People are seeing it, but you know, the scoreboards aren't usually on, or sometimes they are. What did you see out there? Who was out there testing? What'd you learn?
Well, JR's team was out there making some test runs, obviously. They had, you know, a forgettable weekend, and I think everybody was heartbroken for them because of the effort that they put in to get there. You know, after everything that happened at Pomona and after everything that they had to do to run to the shop in Michigan and to get out there to PBRC in Indy and to get cars built and things happen and get to come out there, and D&Q was just crushing. You know, a D&Q is never a good thing, but after all the effort they went through to get literally no reward for it whatsoever, and, you know, JR shouldered a lot of the responsibility for that I don't think he really deserved. I think that, you know, coming in with a brand new car, and, you know, you just needed to get a couple of runs on it, figure something out, and then they ran out of time. So they were staying and testing, and I think that they're certainly going to be much stronger when we get to Charlotte. Ron Capps was there. They made a number of runs with the car. There was a couple of pro stock guys that were out there making hits. Jasmine Salinas made a couple more runs in her dad's car as she continues getting experience in the Top Fuel car. And I think that, you know, the way they're going about it almost mirrors what, you know, what Tony said about, I'm not ready to do that yet. And Jasmine has said she's going to make the move, but she's not trying to, you know, 5 runs, give me a license and go. You know, Mike Salinas said he'd like her to have at least 80 to 100 runs under her belt before she goes into, and I think that's a very smart thing to do. If you've got the budget, you got the wherewithal. There were also a couple of new drivers out there getting licensed, one in one of Randy Meyer's cars and one in Rich McPhillips' cars, and I believe there's going to be some news coming out about that, so I'm not going to spill everything there, but it was overall a pretty busy day of testing. There were a few sportsman cars out there as well. So, you know, it just your typical Monday day. You know, nobody set a world record. Nobody went 300 miles an hour to the 8th. People are out there working on things, testing things. You know, Bob Tasca made a handful of runs, and, you know, you're always striving to get better.
Krista Baldwin out there. What's up, Krista? Tough stuff for Krista, right? They're getting there, though. Like, it's a process. It's a process.
Well,
such enthusiasm out there. Like, everybody wants to see Krista do so well, and then it's drag racing, and so little parts and pieces. I don't know what went wrong, but when she went down the racetrack, it was clearly because something was up.
Well, the car was high idling. At the end of the burnout, the idle didn't come down to where it needed to be. It was idling 3,000 or a little over 3,000. And with the centrifugal clutch they used, that's just too fast to be able to engage the reverser. Could they have messed with it and got it in reverse potentially? Maybe. But I spoke to Krista on Sunday night, and she said that they'd had a problem before in a 4-wide event and basically messed up the entire quad. And she said what she was thinking in the car as soon as something's wrong here, she said Katie came over and shoved the butterflies closed and got the idle down a little bit, but not enough. And Krista waved her out of the way because she said, I wanted to get out of the way so I didn't mess up the others. And so that's what she did. And I think that, you know, shows obviously situational awareness huge, right? If there's one car in the other lane and, okay, I screwed up, but we already know that car's going to win. You know, if you take an extra few seconds, if you take, okay. But when there's 3 cars that are up there running and they still have to go to war to see who's going to go forward, and she just wanted to not have a negative effect on the other 3, I think she made a very good decision, as much as it has to hurt to know I don't get a shot at this. But that's what happened, and we'll see her back in the car, potentially Chicago.
That would be great. Well, I would hope Chicago. I mean, you know, because of the Greek and being so close there, but you never know. But they got a longer term plan going on. Krista just needs, we just need someone out there to believe in the team and step up with some, let's call it serious funding, man. Serious funding. Someone out there wants to be part of something bigger than themselves and fund her team and get on board and let these, she's got the right chess pieces in place with Scott Graham. They just need the money, man. It's as simple as that, because unfortunately these cars don't run on desire. They run on money. And but there's someone out there in the world that is thinking about this and watching Krista Baldwin, and they're going to open the checkbook, man. There's a lot of that goes on in the sport, or maybe a traditional sponsorship with a corporation. But bottom line is we want to see her be successful. Any other final thoughts on Funny Car? So many stories, like the Daniel Wilkerson, Chad Green story. They're doing so great. I love the kid, man. I love his honesty. That's how every interview should be. It should be from the heart. And they're all from the heart with Daniel Wilkerson. And some people might be like cringing, like, oh, what's he going to say? Exactly. You want him on camera because you don't know what he's going to say. But he's not going to say anything terrible. Robert Height, yikes. I can't remember, and maybe you know, the last time they were bounced in the first round. But maybe it wasn't that long ago. But at the same time, when you're Robert Height.
Pomona 21.
Okay. Pomona 21, not that long ago. right? Right. It's only like two,
over a year.
Over a year. But they'll get it going. They're working on some things. But
they made some runs out there yesterday too. But I think the one takeaway for me, John Force making clean runs, John getting to the final quad, and I think Pomona should officially be put to bed. That's over. It's done. It's in the past. We've seen other drivers over the years have just a throwaway weekend, and I think we just put that completely to bed and move forward.
No, I agree. But that's ageism, Alan. That's part of ageism. And, no one wants to bring up it's drag racing. No one wants to ever acknowledge that discrimination happens because in drag racing, we are all encompassing. But ageism is a real thing. And if John Force and another guy both have the same problem, they're going to blame John's problem on age, and the other guy, it'll just be something. John had a good weekend. Boy, how contrite was he throughout the course of the weekend, apologizing and reaching out like over and over again to his fellow racers, apologizing to Connie, apologizing to everyone that will listen, trying desperately to make sure that everybody knows that he feels badly about it. Why does he feel the need? Well, because people were really aggressive in going after him after that incident. It happened to some other drivers too. Hagan and Caps both told me the right lane at Pomona is the hardest lane to drive in all of drag racing. Yes, it did catch him. It is what it is. But I do hope that people out there will listen to what you just said. Let's put it in the rearview mirror.
Well, I don't feel the need to necessarily criticize any driver. That's what we have social media for. But I think that,
and airports can attack the airports as well.
But John had a bad weekend in Pomona. Anybody that had any doubt about his ability to stay in control and be on top, go back and watch what he did in Vegas. John's fine. Let's just move forward.
Yeah, and there are many elements going on that we all don't know about. Maybe they were experimenting with something on the car. They were trying something. Like, we just don't know all the details. It's super easy to assume that everything is always the same, and it's driver. But then again, I know, I don't want you to pile on here. I will say it myself. Ageism is a thing that people do. It's real. That's it. All right. Hey, Krista has an add-on. Let's see. There is still a pit in my stomach about that round, but on to the next. We're with you, Krista. Definitely. We got people out there that are very supportive of Krista. And that's how you earn respect, by doing the right thing in a critical moment like that. Sure. And she's got plenty of respect already. Let's talk Pro Stock, where our guest from last week, who was on the links, Alan, goes out there and goes back-to-back in Pro Stock. First-time, two-time winner in Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn, goes out there, gets through a tough quad with Steve Graham. Congratulations to Steve Graham on getting to the second round. And there's a guy. He's a comp racer. He can drive. They just need, money and power. And it looks like they've got pretty good power. So they need laps and opportunity. Gets through, Kyle, who went red. That's unfortunate. Mason rattled the tires. So Dallas and Steve advance together. Then Dallas and Derek Kramer get together, which means we're going to have a good episode of Hear It from Heiner for our Patreon-only audience, as Michael Heiner, who, Alan, it's Patreon only, but he gave us a really good chassis dynamics education in the last episode. We looked at some video. We did some really hardcore Pro Stock stuff. They go to the final round, and where Dallas and Derek go up against Troy Coughlin, who says he missed it in the final round. You'll see that in my interview with him and the McPhillips family coming up. And Christian Quadra, who this kid with the Frank Iaconio power is driving the wheels off that race car. 016, 018, 008. What a great day behind the wheel, but comes up short as Dallas Glenn wins back-to-back races.
Yeah, and then on Monday, he was under the hood of the transporter. When I was taking a cruise through the pits at one point, he was working on the tractor trying to get things squared away there so they could go home. So, hey, whatever it takes to get done is what he's going to do. It's just fascinating to me that as equal as the power level is in Pro Stock with, almost all of the engines coming out of four shops, right? Between Southwest Performance, between KB Titan, between Elite and Frank Iaconio, the power level across is so very equal, and yet there's always one or two cars that seem to have an advantage over the rest. Last year, Erica looked all but unstoppable, and this year she looks like downright human. And all of a sudden, Dallas Glenn looks great. Car's running very well out there. Matt Hartford's car's running great. His first ever #1 qualifier. And he's going to be kicking himself until he gets to Charlotte because, if you get beat on a hole shot, right, the guy's 00, you're 20, or whatever, okay. Or if you miss the tree, okay, that happens. When you get beat on double hole shot, it really, really stings because, you had a better car than two of the other guys out there, and yet those two are going on and you're not. And that's something that I guarantee you, Matt can't wait to get to Charlotte and let the clutch out again to kind of redeem himself for that.
Yeah, I in an alternate universe, the Total Seal team had 3 great races that were winnable for them, which isn't always the case. Arizona, Pomona, and now Vegas, just something, knocking them off their track a little bit, and very unfortunate. But at the same time, something positive to take out of each one of them and building to something. You just don't want to see a driver and a team miss their moment to break through. They've had a great car, #1 qualifier, winning the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty. We'll see. Whatever it was that got Matt, got Erica also. I wonder about that. She's 78, he's 77. I don't know why or what, but they both seem to see it the same. And Troy and Christian, 27 and 18, they just got after him. And, it is what it is. That's part of racing. The second you get a fast car, the focus then changes to something else. And now it's you. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to be a competitive pro stock racer. Here I am. Here it is. And then, but they're doing well. It's just, you got to make the most of this time while you've got it.
You know what you have to win 10 races on a hole shot, right?
What's that?
A slow car.
Yeah. I
mean, simple as that. Every time that I've spoken to people over the years, and they're like, well, who's the better driver? And they'll say, oh, well, Joe's got 10 hole shot wins and Alan's got 10 hole shot losses. So Joe's a way better driver than Alan. Joe's got a slow car. Because if Joe and Alan swap cars, Joe's never going to have another hole shot win. So does that mean he's not a good driver anymore? I mean, you just have to have the whole combination for it to go together. And when you have a fast car, all of a sudden the focus comes back to, because you now have a chance to get beat in that manner. If I have a slow car and I average a 40 light, I'm never going to lose on a hole shot. I don't care if the guy in the other lane is 000 every time. He's got a faster car than me. I never lost on a hole shot. Does that mean I'm a great driver? Of course not. So you've got to have the whole thing together. The focus just comes more and more on the driver as the car becomes faster and faster. But you also will see, and like Erica, living proof of this, when you have a fast car, that gives the driver confidence to go out there and do a better job because you're not pressing so much. And so I thought, what Brittany Force said when she was asked about her reaction times, I thought was very telling. And I think anybody that's competed, she's, when Amanda asked her, what have you done? Because I believe it was J.R. Todd that made the comment on the TV show that she's really stepped up her program on the starting line. And she said, honestly, I quit thinking about it because I found myself like pressing and, make it. And it just took me out of my comfort zone. So I went back to, you know how to drive the car, just drive the car. Stop pressing so hard, and all of a sudden the results come back. And so, I'm not the least bit concerned with Matt. I think that this could be the first time that he's wins multiple races this year. And if he's not in the conversation by the time we get to, let's say, Dallas next year about legitimately, potentially having a shot to win the championship, I'll be stunned.
I agree with you. And so the accelerated learning process for that team should be happening right now because this is a great opportunity. In each race this year, they've had some sort of highlight, and relax is the way to do it. Like what Brittany just said, but it's true. Like I will compare it to myself doing what I do. The more you try to be perfect in every word you say at every time, the more you're going to stumble. When you just relax and let it come and be yourself and feel confident and feel in the moment. And I'm not saying that any driver isn't doing this, but Brittany Force just told us she was. So we'll use her as our example, right? When you just take the pressure off and just be there present in the moment and just do what you can do, as opposed to trying to force the issue, you're going to be better off. And I can't think of anything out there that trying to force the issue, trying to make something happen, works better than being relaxed and having something happen naturally, because it's going to happen. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it with Brittany. She has really been good. Let's talk Erica, though, and Elite. So Troy has been fast, and Aaron Stanfield, those guys had a good weekend. They thought they could win. Is it just, like there's so much praise that went on that team. It's just a question like, hey, man, they haven't had it just this year. I still believe that it's coming. She could rattle off 5 wins this year, 6 wins. Anything can happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And it wasn't like they were super quick or fast out there. So when do we start ramping up the conversation about our reigning and unbelievable 5-time world champion yet to have what I would call a standout race?
Norwalk.
Okay. Norwalk's a long way away. If Erica hasn't won a race by Norwalk, I'm sorry. People are going to be freaking out. They're going to be freaking out.
No, I'm saying that's when we should have. If she hasn't won by Norwalk, that's when I'm not the least bit worried about them. They tested yesterday also. I had an opportunity to talk with both Richard and Erica, and they just, they're missing something. And, you just got to figure out what the something is, right? What was there last year that's not there this year? Because last year that team went to 13 final rounds and won 10 races. So they're missing something. But they've got a lot of smart people over there, and they certainly have the resources they need, and they're going to get it figured out. It's just a matter of putting in the work until you do.
It could be one of those interesting stories when she's holding the championship trophy at the end of the season. Remember the slow start that they got, and they obviously did. But let me tell you, Alan, I don't know, man. If Erica doesn't have a win by Norwalk, I don't know if there's going to be an Erica. She might jump off a bridge, right? Like Erica is not going to let that happen. I don't see that happening. But we'll see. We shall see. Hey, Walt is out there. Walt Walker, what's up, Walt? How are you doing? Excellent weekend for Walt, getting deep in the rounds with Bruno. Derek Kramer, Michael Heiner, that's got to be a happy weekend for those guys. They changed a bunch of stuff and got to the final round. And that's the thing about 4-wide. It gives you some hope. Like, all right, we made the final round. I know we didn't necessarily, they did win one of their quads, but it's not that 2-wide sudden death every moment of the race, which I think adds.
The beauty of 4-wide is that you don't have to win, you have to advance. And, if I'm going up there against you and I know that, man, your car's been running good and you've been driving good, and okay, maybe I need to, take a home run swing at it, right? It's like, if I want to beat Joe, I have to be right on the edge of shaking the tires. I have to be right. I have to give. So I go up there and tip over. Or 4-wide, if I look across the deal and go, okay, I know Joe's running really good, but the other 2 cars, we're pretty even. So I'm not worried about Joe. I need to let Joe do what he wants. Make a solid run and make sure that I'm out in front of those other 2 cars so I can advance. I'll worry about Joe when we get to the final round if it gets that far. But I think sometimes it keeps somebody from shorting out. But that's the other side of the beauty of the 4-wide, is why some of the lower funded cars have an opportunity, because when you go up there and you see, let's say you got, just picking names out of the hat, okay? Let's say you got a Coletta car, let's say you got Tony Schumacher, let's say you got Brittany Force, and then you got Joe Castello. Well, if Brittany and Doug and Tony are all going, holy crap, I got to outrun 2 of those guys. If a couple of them make a mistake, that leaves the door open for Joe Castello to go down there and run 395 and go to the next round, because basically he was being ignored over in his lane. And we see it all the time in 4-wide. When you get the higher performing teams, the higher budget teams, you get 2 or 3 of them in a quad, and they focus so strongly on each other, they'll make a mistake and let one of the other cars advance through the day. And I think that's part of the fun, right? I mean, these guys get another opportunity to make the run. They get an opportunity to get some more TV time. They get an opportunity for the fans to get to know them a little bit better. And that's part of the beauty of 4-wide, is that a number of the cars that, don't get a lot of round wins because you're always racing Antron or Brittany or, whoever in the first round, Josh. Now, if those other cars kind of overlook, then it's an opportunity to advance. There are quite a few people that have gotten, their their first round win or their first advance to the next round in the 4-wide simply because the circumstance dictates that strange things can happen.
Absolutely. All right, so let's put this to bed first, Stan. Stan says, make Vegas a night race like F1. And while that might sound interesting on the surface, I am vehemently against it. Okay, normally I'm into night racing, but not in Las Vegas, okay? And part of the deal, explain.
When is the F1 race?
It's coming up in November.
Is it really that far in the year?
Yeah.
I thought it was I thought it was more in the summer, fall.
No, it's going to be 10
run at night
o'clock
because
at
it's going
night.
to be hot.
No, that's the thing is people are worried. It's like the week before Thanksgiving, something like that. Exact date is available on the web, but it's going to be a 10 p.m. start in November in Vegas, which you know better than me. It's got a chance to be very cold, and I don't know what that's going to be. It's at night because the strip is the racetrack. We saw a lot of work. I don't know how much you got to take in to see all the work that is going on. But I made
one drive down the strip and then avoided it like the plague.
Absolutely. Great photos. We'll talk about it on the Ignition show because I found it to be interesting. Everyone knows that I'm going to the Miami Formula One and I love it. But I don't think it would be good for drag racing. I think people who want to come to the drag races want both things. They want drag racing during the day and they want Vegas restaurants and hotels and gambling at night. I think the people in Vegas also want our people at the hotels and the restaurants at night. To put the race at night, I think would be counterproductive to the whole exercise of making it a trip that you do for multiple reasons.
Well, we have in the past run Friday evening sessions and run, wouldn't call it a night session, but certainly an evening session. And we have in the past, the sun goes down, it gets cold, the track gets tricky, and the fans go home. They'll come out and they'll watch the run at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, it starts getting cold. And like you said, they want to go to a restaurant. They want to go to a show. They want to go hit a casino. They want to do. So they come out and watch one session and don't stick around for the second one. The fans, more than anything else, dictated in large numbers that they want to have a drag race during the day and they want to have Las Vegas at night. And so that's why we move the stuff up. That's why, and it's not 100% of the fans. I get it. And especially, I'm genuinely curious as to how many of the fans that say there should be a night session in Vegas are actually in Vegas. Because I know a lot of the fans that follow along on the live stream and a lot of the fans that watch the NHRA on Fox coverage love the night sessions, right? You see the big numbers, you see the header flames, you see it, they love that. But for the people that are here, and I don't know if you remember this or not, Joe, but I vividly remember when we would run a Friday night session, that Friday afternoon the place would be rocking. And Friday night it was more than 50% empty because the people had tickets to a show, reservations for a restaurant, something. Vegas is a destination race. People come to Vegas to have the Las Vegas experience and as part of the drag race. So we need to make sure we get the drag race done in time that they can still go have their Vegas experience.
Absolutely. And as we continue to grow from here on out, we got to keep that in mind. Like, I think the schedule is perfect right now. Do the racing during the day, get it over, let people, especially the people who work for NHRA, get out to the restaurants and have a good time and experience it because it gets everybody's mindset. Stan mentions Paul Lee's oil down. I look at that. Everybody accuses me of being overly positive and trying to find the silver lining all the time and demanding that I wallow in negativity at some point. But to me, we were so lucky. It was worth the hour of oil down cleanup or whatever it was that Paul didn't destroy his car, didn't get on the wall or over the wall. He had an oil line come off and get under the tire. The fact that he didn't destroy his entire operation on that, to me, is just very fortunate. Yes, it took a long time. It was terrible, but I put those two together and just am thankful it wasn't a much worse situation than it was.
Okay, then I'll be the negativity guy. I thought it sucked.
Well, it was definitely terrible, but look at all the fun we had for like the first 15 minutes. You would have not been able to shout out to every person that tech tweeted you.
Yeah, that's true. And we did get to annoy Evan with that, so that's always a bonus also. Now,
yes.
And what happened, anybody that knows anything about it broke a Wiggins clamp. Okay, now that happens, once every 472 years or some ridiculous thing. And, if anybody said, well, they probably didn't have it installed right, or then it would have come off on the burnout. It was the high pressure line on the oil pump. And if it had been improperly installed, or if it had not been installed, or if it had, and it was installed because it was on the car broken when they found the thing. When they started the car, it would have blown the line off, and that would have been the end of it. But it went through the burnout, went through everything fine. When he mashed the gas, that's when it gets maximum oil pressure, when the RPM goes up over 8,000, and it blew the line off. We've gone so far in containment. If the thing blows up, if it throws the rods out of it, if it saws the crank in half, it very rarely leaves a lot of oil on the track. But when it blew the pressure line off the pump, when that clamp failed, it simply just unloaded all the oil out of it, and most of it under the left rear tire, which is why the car turned so hard right, and then Paul brought it back around and just barely grazed the wall with the back corner of it, and yes, it made a mess. But when's the last time we had a cleanup that long? If it happens once every 7 or 8 years, you know what? I think we just have to deal with it. And I think deal with it is what we did, the best we could. We had the tools. I got a handful of emails in my announcer email that said, well, you should have done this, or you should have done this, or you should have done this. Well, I don't know that we're going to spend a lot of time preparing for what are we going to do in the next hour and a half oil down if it happens once every 7 or 8 years. So, we got through it, and, J-Lo and I were having fun, and I don't really care about everybody else. So as long as,
No, we were, though. No, listen, that's part of the character. Nobody wants it. It's a terrible situation. But you did get prolonged conversation with Ron Capps and Cruz Pedregon and Matt Hagan. You got to hear what they thought about in the moment. We threw some shirts out. We did everything. We played some songs. We did whatever we could do to make it not they're welcome to walk downstairs and buy a t-shirt and get themselves a beverage and go see other teams work. That's the thing about drag racing. Just because what is happening on the track stops doesn't mean the event stops. You can come back when you hear a burnout, and you'll be able to see it. Go down to the park, enjoy the artificial turf. There was plenty to do. I wouldn't call it a big problem. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the rest of the winners. Tony Stewart, Doug Gordon, big winners in the alcohol ranks. Travis Gusso getting his first win in competition eliminator. And he did, just so you know, I did confirm with him, Gusso, not Gusso, because I called him Gusso for years. And then I finally went to him, or maybe they came to me and they smacked me around a little bit. But one way I do know it's Gusso. Brad Burton, Kyle Rizzoli, who is just an awesome racer. Rizzoli is just awesome. Tanner Theobald, Tom Carlson getting his first win, and Mike McBrayer. How about that moment where he presented the Wally, right? Like, just big emotional moments. I know we started off talking about Tony Stewart in the alcohol ranks, but throughout all of our categories, great people doing this for emotional reasons, and to see them win, just great.
Yeah, for Doug Gordon, it's kind of starting to get real now, because, I spoke to him at the end of the day, and he said, he just realized it's his last 4-wide. And, at the beginning of the season, it's like, I got all year, it won't seem strange until, Vegas 2 or maybe even Pomona before it starts really sinking in. But now he's going through things and he's going, that's the last time I'll do this, or that's the last time that. Because for those who don't know, his daughter is going to take over driving. And as I understand it, she's got most of her safety stuff, most of her things ready to go. They've got a porous seat, and they're going to have to adjust the controls and stuff before they put her in the car. But I expect her to start making licensing runs probably within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I think she'll be in it to begin the training process. So looking forward to that. But they really would like to take that Beta Motorcycles car out a champion, and then turn it over to Maddie and see what she can do with it.
They can always. I don't understand why it's got to be so final for Doug. Like, just get another car, Doug. Come on, simple as that. And father-daughter racing team, side by side.
Who's going to work on it?
They'll both work on both of them. They'll bring on some people.
Are
that
you
makes
crazy?
Moves.
Hey, Macy, whose car do you want to work on, Dad's or your sister's?
They will all work on both.
I'll be over here if you need. Hey, Grandpa, I need some help with my car. Can you come help me instead of Doug? Doug. He'd be a man on an island over there. that car's running really good. Alan Johnson engines are making a lot of power right now. Doug's driving a lot of confidence right now, and they would like to go out with the number one. I think what's been interesting is how much the Killer Bees have struggled this year early on. They certainly are not in championship stride as of yet. Now it's a long year, and there's plenty of time to turn it around. So we'll wait and see what happens. But if I'm Doug, I'm going to do exactly what Doug is doing. I'm going to keep piling the points on. You mentioned Kyle Rizzoli. He's won a couple of races already this year. Brad Burton is a killer run as well. I mean, he's really driving well. The car's running well, and they're going to be back here this weekend trying to do even more damage. There's a double divisional in Vegas this weekend. So think about this. Okay, Kyle Rizzoli stays hot and wins the double divisional. That's 4 wins that he's going to tally, before June, before May. And, he doesn't show a lot of signs of slowing down. And again, he's driving really well. He's got good equipment out there. And when you get on a roll, things start going your way. People start pressing when they're in the other lane. So it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm really looking forward to getting started with that thing. I've got, another day to kill here, and then it's time to go racing again.
All right, Allie Bland out there has a question. Joe and Alan, question. If you were not announcing NHRA drag racing, what would you like to announce? This is a good question for Alan. Like do NCAA basketball, but what about Alan would like to do basketball? But what about you, Joe? Miss you, says Allie Bland, who we love, who works in the NHRA media department. You're a college, you'd like to do college basketball, Alan?
I've always wanted to do college basketball, always. I am a big fan of the game. I follow the Arizona Wildcats pretty religiously, and I have always wanted to do college basketball. I think that would be, I think that's an exciting sport. I think it'd be fun.
Excellent. So for me, I'm kind of on the spot here. I've got the opportunity to call some other things, done a little bit of baseball, some IndyCar and some NASCAR through Homestead Miami Speedway. I think I would like to do a little more NASCAR related play-by-play, just to kind of work with the MRN or PRN guys, get in that cadence that they get going. I think is pretty cool. But that's all racing, Formula One. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. But that's all racing. So let's get out of racing. I think I would want to call like one of them wrestling matches. Like some WWE wrestling. That's Bob Fry's big stat that he called a match with Gorilla Monsoon, and I think that would be really cool. Some modern era wrestling. I think I could get up to speed on the lingo really quickly, and I could bring some intensity to it.
Well, there you go. I've done NASCAR stuff, not cup level by any means, but I think my NASCAR claim to fame is that I was Brian France's Saturday night short track announcer years ago. When Brian France got out of college, but long before he became the president of NASCAR, his dad wanted him to learn from the ground up, and NASCAR ISC held the lease on Tucson Raceway Park, a little 3/8 mile, it was at the time dirt oval down in Tucson, and they sent Brian out there to be the track manager for a few years because his dad wanted him to learn literally everything from the grassroots up. And during his tenure out there, they paved the track. During that, they did the Winter Heat series that was on ESPN, and I was the track announcer out there. So I've done Saturday night short track, both dirt and asphalt. That's actually where I met Mike Joy. I talked a little bit about last week that Mike Joy and I worked together. He and Buddy Baker were the TV announce duo for ESPN, and I was their booth spotter when they were doing the Winter Heat stuff out there. But I've done sand drags, I've done boat drags, I've done circle boat stuff, and again, motorsport. But college basketball, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Or I would like to do voiceover stuff. I think it would be fun to do like animated movies, do that kind of thing. Now, keep in mind, anybody who's watching out there, I'm an independent contractor, so if I've got like a day off, and I will do, bar mitzvahs or mall openings or, whatever you got. I don't care. Your kid's 3rd birthday party, give me a call. I'm there.
Hot Wheels car races.
Car races, yes. We had a lot of fun with the Hot Wheels races.
Well, now
and that was all just complete off the cuff, making stuff up and shooting Hot Wheels out of the launcher.
And it was great, though. And Matt, who is now, part of Team NHRA at the divisional level, and I've kind of gotten to know him. He knew me better than I knew him from the show. He watched some of the episodes of the show, and I knew the things you worked on, but great and creative guy. And that's exactly what we need, right? Like people that are willing to come up with weird stuff and try it out, and maybe it'll work. Like, that's what you got to do. People need to realize that you got to come up with new stuff. You got to refresh the ideas every once in a while. I think that was a perfect example. Alan, any final thought on the 4 wide before we got the regional this weekend out there in Vegas, and then we're going to the original 4 wide, the Bellagio of drag racing, ZMAX Dragway, coming back to the East Coast. Hopefully everybody in that part of the country wants to be a part of what's happening in the NHRA and come out and spend a little time with us. But if you got a final thought, now's the time.
I think it was a great event. We had solid crowds. We had really good racing, and I spoke with Chris Powell, the GM of Las Vegas Motor Speedway, a little bit, and I told him, I have a really simple pass-fail judge for every event we go to. Really simple pass-fail on whether or not it was a good event, and that is, if somebody was there for the first time, if that was their first experience with NHRA, would they want to come back? And if there was anybody that was out there at the 4 wides this weekend and that was your first exposure to NHRA and you said to yourself, well, gee, I don't know, then thank you for giving us a shot, but maybe drag racing is not for you, because I thought it was a terrific event. And I think if anybody was there for the first time, I think they would want to come back. And it was just a great race. We saw, a little bit of everything. We had drama. We had Temper Solaire a couple of times. We had great side-by-side racing. We had historical results. I think it was a terrific race, and I hope we can keep the momentum going. Gainesville was great. Phoenix, amazing. Pomona, very strong. This one as well. We'll head back to Greg Walther's place, the ZMAX Dragway, and see what we can do.
Simple as that. We'll bring the show. Circus coming to town, baby. If you're out there, you need to get your tickets now so you can come see this crazy Nitro Circus. Alan, great job. Thank you so much. Have fun out there in Vegas. Try to come out on the upside and say hi to everybody out there at the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. They did a great job. I love that facility. For years, I didn't get to go, and now that I get to go, and I'm very thankful and appreciative, it's a great place.
It's funny when we were doing, everybody was doing their selfies and putting the tags up, and we were putting them up on the big screen. So I just turned around and you know what? One comment I got in my social media and even a couple of emails about more than anything.
What's that?
What's the $100 for?
Oh, there it is.
It's like you had to really zoom in on the picture to see the $100 bill tucked under the corner of my computer. But I just thought that was hilarious.
So what was the $100 for? Now that
you don't have to know everything.
You brought everybody in on it. Like you brought it up.
I don't have to know everything.
Okay, well, you did ask a question out there, and I'm asking you to give me the details of what the responses were. At the start of the event, you asked people to give you feedback on the blue shirt. The blue shirt was a big topic of conversation, right? It was me trying to do my best Jerry Haas impression, as you can see. What was the feedback you received? Because I've received feedback as well, but I want to know what your people said. Unless maybe you got 0, and then that's a win either way.
No, I got feedback. I have to tell you though, I didn't turn the results over to Smith and Schuster or whoever the big auditing firm is that does all this stuff, and I didn't do a hard count for exactly how many votes came in, and I haven't broken down the percentages, and I haven't blah 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 blah. Okay, so this isn't going to be a technically perfect answer, and if somebody wants to demand a recount, I'm not doing it. But the entirety of the votes that I received, there was one that said black shirts and everybody else said blue.
Like blue is better, or blue looks better?
Keep the blue.
Keep the blue.
One said they like the black shirts. Every other vote I got said keep the blue.
Excellent. So wow, that's amazing.
I didn't get any blue shirts, so that means apparently the entire company's going to switch, and then I'll get some 3 years from now.
That's correct, exactly. So at least we are all on the page with the way it works. This was a very big risk that I took coming up with the concept to wear the blue shirt and to go out there and put myself and my personal reputation on the line by wearing the blue shirt and have it come up, be very successful. I feel very good about it. Will everyone adopt the blue shirts? I don't know. I don't know if they will have the courage to do so, to follow my trend. But there it is, trendsetter. Look at that blue shirt. You know what? I had the whole media PR group, like that room, which doesn't get a lot of love because they don't want it, because they're behind the scenes people. But they all, in group, told me that they all voted positive on the blue shirt. You've now reinforced it. And so that is great. Great news. Blue shirt will continue, at least for the near term. Good job.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, exactly. And Austin Williams is like, he demands a selfie with Jerry Haas because Jerry Haas is Mr. Blue Shirt, right? Like he's the one who really started the trend. It's just, an accident with me. But there you go. All right, Alan, great job. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, Joe, travel safe. We'll chat next week.
Here he goes, the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, who gets to continue to be in Vegas. Thank you very much. All right, everybody, here's the deal. I got a great interview that you're going to want to see with Rich and Mike and TJ that I'm going to play in a few seconds. But what I really would love for you to do is continue to share the show. We get to this point in the show, and I'm going to take your comments. I'm going to answer your questions. There's a guy who's got a question out there, and I want to answer it as best as I can, and we'll do some comments and all of that. But first, I just got to tell you about a couple of our other sponsors that make this thing absolutely possible. No joke, it's not possible without Marvin Rodak. Frankly, one of our first ever sponsors. Our first sponsor was Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Our second sponsor, like weeks later, was Marvin Rodak. His coffee keeps me going during the week. 817-924-6821. It's so much better than the regular stuff that people buy at the grocery store. I get the WFO Radio Blend. I get it full bean, but he's got so many different other blends of coffee and actual coffees from around the world. It is the best stuff you're going to get. Plus, he's got hot sauces and spice rubs. It just level up your cooking and coffee experience with Rodax. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. Frank Hawley, it's an honor to be associated with Frank and Lana Hawley. They are great people. They give back to the sport in 1,000 different ways. But one of the best things they do is the Dragster adventure. You hear all the pub that they get for working and coaching drivers and people going through their licensing programs. Tony Stewart was on the show not long ago, said he went back through the funny car program with Frank. There's a reason for all that, but that takes a commitment. What about something easy, like lesser commitment, where you could have that experience and really enjoy it? And that's what the Dragster Adventure is all about. The Dragster Adventure program for Frank Hawley is all about going through a day experience, driving a dragster, and maybe, doing a burnout or something. They have all kinds of programs at Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Like, you could be involved very easily. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more information. Let's just check out one of the burnouts that they've got. That is their Super Gas program. How cool would that be? Adam from Hartford's team went through that program not long ago. I got to get him on the show to talk about it. Like, what was it like to go and be and around and work with Frank Hawley throughout the day? Great stuff. Go to frankhawley.com, and I'm super excited that they're part of our show. And samtech.edu, Brian Massengill and his family, they've got a machine shop school. It's really what it is, but they teach motorsport, EFI tuning, electronic fuel injection, CNC programming, all of those things, in addition to their cylinder block and cylinder head programs. They're located in the Houston, Texas area, and it's like, do you want to go to work for SpaceX? Do you want to program CNC machines? This is a great place to get that core and foundational education. Go to samtech.edu to find out more information. It is great stuff. And then there's the Patreons. These guys are VIP listeners. It starts as low as $5 a month, but people get, there's multiple tiers. We would appreciate you join for the year. And if you do, I will send you a t-shirt in addition to the other stuff that you get. What do you get? Well, you get to be a part of the Ignition show, as in chiming in on the show through the chat section. You get to watch the record session live. You get Monday motivation from me. Like yesterday, I revealed to the Patreons that I was trapped in the airport. I'm trapped, and I was in a very negative and difficult situation. So what do? I fire up the Patreon Monday motivation, and I do a little recording and let them know what was going on. But what is really going on is the Hear It From Heiner show. Michael Heiner, who is the crew chief for the Get Biofuel Camaro, driven by Derek Kramer, is coming on, and we're just, I want to make it seem bigger than it is. So I will tell you, it is a wide-ranging, detailed conversation about pro stock, chassis dynamics, and all of these things, which is actually very true. He gave us, we looked at graphs. I don't think you're going to get a better and more detailed pro stock dynamic conversation anywhere in the world. I don't think you're going to get it other than being a WFO Patreon, which your other benefits are you get to help the show. You get to help the show grow and you get to know all the inside stuff. But in addition to all that pro stock dynamic stuff, you get to hear the wild digressions of Joe Castello and Michael Heiner as we talk Formula One and we talk, the gossip that's out there on the tour and all the stuff that's going on. And the only caveat that I said to Michael, I was like, hey, man, if you're going to do this, because it was his idea. I want to do something to help WFO, Joe. I want to do something to help the well. He's like, let's do something for the Patreons. And immediately people thought, well, you should put it out to the regular audience. And the Patreon said no, and they get voting power. They said, no, the regular people don't get to hear the Heiner Show. The Heiner Show is for Patreons only. And so if you join, you get to hear the Heiner Show. But I only had one rule for him, and it was this. Don't get yourself fired. Don't say something that's going to get yourself fired as a crew, because I will feel bad, and it will not be the first time that I got somebody fired. And so check out Hear It From Heiner. And do a little research on Get Biofuel as well. All right. My shilling for various things is out of the way. Let's go back and listen to the Winner Circle conversation with the guys who made it possible for Smoke, for Tony Stewart, one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers, a motorsports icon, to score his first drag racing victory. How did that happen? Well, it started off with a test. Here is Rich and Mike Coughlin and Troy Coughlin hanging out, and I just approached them with the camera. And they say it. It's good to be rich. Look at this. It's good to be rich.
How you doing?
It's good to be rich.
Yes, it is.
And Mike and TJ. All right, so let me get where the sun's behind me. The photographers taught me this. Okay. Give me some perspective on this. This is a pretty big deal.
This was a big deal.
Great weekend.
And we
Yeah,
had,
2 in the final.
we had a ratty car. We were in Bakersfield and we were throwing it in the sand and we were doing all kind of bad things and turned it around today, this weekend.
Yeah, I heard you were in there.
I was doing something in there.
The test in Bakersfield, right?
I was the test
Quote
dummy.
unquote, we learned absolutely nothing.
Correct.
Is that true?
Wasted
Bam.
nitro.
But how could that be? Because whatever you did there got you here.
Yeah, we had
checked
more
a few
things to check off.
We checked a few things off the list and you keep your head down, you keep working, and good things happen.
We got everybody here. We got the car owners for Tony's amazing first win, and Mike, and Troy was the final as well.
We got runner-ups.
Are you disappointed?
Just missed it.
You're bummed, or no, you're not bummed?
Picked a bad lap to miss it.
All right. That's that we're
That's
running the
drivers.
gamut of emotions here.
Hey, it's an emotional sport,
Yes, it
but
is.
we love it. We're addicted.
Yeah,
We'll be back.
I think we all are.
Give
So what do
me
you think about this guy?
few
He
days.
did pretty good. He takes it easy.
Can't complain, man.
All
One
right.
of my
Cannot
teachers,
complain. I'm not
two of my
complaining.
teachers,
Mike's a
three.
wheelman too.
Yeah, well, exactly. You got to work with all these guys.
All of them.
But now you're a pro stock guy. They don't shift gears.
I'm a drag racing guy. I like doing it all. I want to do it all. Yeah, quote unquote. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take
Taxi
that.
cab.
I
Well,
use that line once.
It's got doors like a taxi, but he also has to shift the car. That's kind of cool.
That's a 5 speeds are fun to drive.
I'm sure they are. All right, guys, congratulations! Big win. Not just drag racing history, racing history. That is a big deal. You guys have earned it.
We didn't stretch it out any farther.
And what do they say? Just give me a big. It's good to be rich, right in the camera. Come
It's
on now.
good to be rich.
Good to
There
be
it is.
rich.
Good to be rich. There it is. And this guy,
Now he ends up showing up everywhere.
everywhere.
I just end up at the
Don't do nothing.
right place at the right time.
There it is. That's the secret to success. Later, guys.
See you, Jeff.
How about that? Eric out there at the end, who has been with like so many race winning and championship alcohol teams. He's like right place, right time. All right, let's see what kind of comments are in the comment section, guys. All right, so Stan had a question about the oil down, and I just wanted to mention it, Stan. Okay, because so Stan is out there and he's actively doing his thing, and so I've spent a lot of time thinking about a lot of different things that are going on in the sport because I'm super excited. Hopefully everybody knows that. I'm super excited about where we are and what's happening and what's going on in the sport. And I really would hope everybody gets on the same page of the power of positivity. Yes, there's going to be some negative moments, but they are going to be overwhelmed by the positive moments. And we're going to make it happen. We're not going to get mired down in the negativity. But every once in a while, when we want to talk negativity, like the prolonged oil down, I will entertain it. Stan had asked, they should have run lanes 1 and 2. Okay, Stan, let's think about it. Why, and I want you, Stan, to think about why not run the lanes 1 and 2. Why not? Just shift those cars over to 1 and 2. So we had 2 cars in 1 and 2. I think we had Cruz and then maybe it was Robert. No, Robert was in lane 3. But the bottom line is why not? The answer is it's a 4-wide drag race with 4 lanes, and you run 4 qualifying sessions. You do that so each car has a shot at each lane. So your idea of just running lanes 1 and 2 would then rob the guys that were in 3 and 4 of their shot at their lanes, thus affecting the competition and the level playing field. So to save X amount of minutes, you would totally alter the competitive balance. So Stan, that is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. You would have saved us 30 minutes. We would have taken a few minutes to clean. Someone decides, let's run lanes 1 and 2 only, and then Caps and those guys, Caps who ended up running low of the round, by the way, over there in lane 4, which they got it pretty good. I don't know, man. From the way that thing started out over there, lane 4 maybe needed a little something extra and got a little something extra. You would change that instead of just wait the 45 minutes. I think it was 45 minutes or an hour. It was an hour. It was unfortunate. But see, so there isn't an idea to solve every single problem. That's the deal, right? People, what do they hold most closely to their heart? What is most important to most people? The most important thing that they have, and it is their own self-opinions, their opinions and beliefs. And that has been the challenge. It's been so difficult to get through a 4-wide week without somebody being like, listen, that's over. That's over. These 4 wides are happening. They're going to be happening. And not only are they happening, but they're good for the sport. They're good for the sport. You don't run into tens of, because I don't interact with that many people, but tens of fans that are under 30 and young and interesting and attractive. And they're at their first race ever. And we're over ticket sales pre-pandemic out there. Like things are looking good and everyone's into it. We had a great crowd, and you don't call that a negative. That's never a negative. Would there have been more or fewer people there if it had been a 2-wide drag race, all things being the same? The answer is there would have been fewer people there. So it's over. It's over. It's an over with debate, which is great. But Stan, like your question about lanes 1 and 2, that's worth having. It's worth having, but it would have altered the competitive balance. It would have been a deviation from the rules of the sport, and that would not have been a good thing. What do you do in that situation? You bite the bullet and you deal with it. And you listen to the Low Zone, play his music, and listen to Alan Reinhart, shout out, doing shout outs to people on Twitter. And we do interviews and have a good time. That is as simple as that. Blake wants to know about Amanda. The answer is no, Blake, I did not. I apologize. Simple as that. All right, let's see what else everyone else has to say. Let's see. How about books for Alan? Alan is gone. So, hey, Greg. Oh, this is a conversation that's just going on in the chat section. I'm going to switch to the end, right? 2 hours. It was 2 hours, but again, so what? How about that? So what? You're there at the drag strip. Go walk the pits. Go get a beverage. Go down to the park. Go buy a t-shirt. Take care of some business. Go meet a driver. Go handle some stuff. Well, I'm at home. Well, then shut off the stream and go watch Twitter, and they will tell you when we're coming back. Like, that's the thing, is it wasn't that big a deal that was worthy of altering the competitive balance. It just wasn't worth it. It was better to do what we did. I also want to talk about the J.R. Todd DNQ. I said on the show, like, those guys, they had an opportunity and they had a moment to do something big, an opportunity to not only win fans to create fans, but get people interested in the sport because of all the hype. And not everybody understands the media, and even I don't understand the media fully. It's an active organism, right? But J.R. Todd and his team, by DNQing, right? By DNQing, it's terrible that they DNQ'd. I'm looking at the bright side. The story continues. When they go to Charlotte, what will they have? All eyes will be upon them. They had a bad crash. They did amazing things just to make the race. They ran out of time. They DNQ'd. JR gets an opportunity on television and in the booth with Alan Reinhart and excelled. We would have never seen that. He doesn't want that. He never wants it again. But you're making lemonade out of lemons in that moment. And J.R. Todd got to showcase his personality and string more words together on an NHRA broadcast than ever before. People who see JR's top end interviews, see JR after a win, after a loss, he says 30 seconds worth of stuff. He gave opinions. He gave insights. He talked about details. And now that team goes to Charlotte. And what will they do? And if they can do something amazing, then the story is bookended with greatness. That's interesting. That's worth watching. That's how it works. You know, if they qualify 14th and then they go first round out, then it just kind of fizzles. But the opportunity to do something memorable is still out there for that team, which is great stuff. Great stuff. Other than that, Vegas, I ate the most unhealthy that I've ever eaten ever. The unhealthiest 4 days of eating ever. And I came back at the same weight, which I'm pretty amazed by. Craziness. Just fantastic meals and enjoyed the time in Vegas so much. It is really one of my most favorite tracks and events. Jeff Foster and his team, like they've been getting love on WFO from Reinhart, and, you know, Nate Hershey always says wonderful things about him, but I didn't fully understand until I started going. One of the best tracks. And that goes back to Speedway Motorsports and Marcus Smith, giving them everything they need. They've got a facility that isn't going anywhere, that is a center, it's a hub. I went to one of my favorite breakfast places in Vegas, and I'm walking out, and one of the valets commented about the NHRA logos and how great this sport is. You know, not everybody in Vegas, not everybody in every city we go to knows that we're there. Vegas knows that we're there. The people in Vegas knows that drag racing it comes to town. They know it's a thing. They know it's a great sport. And they always have positive things to say, whether it be the Uber drivers or the taxi cab drivers or the people at bars. And, you know, we're all logoed up most of the time out there. Just a great event. So what I would say to people, of course, fall is coming. We're doing our big Patreon meetup at the Stampede of Speed. Last year it was in Vegas. I would love for all of our Patreons to come to the Stampede of Speed this year, because we're going to be doing a lot of extra hanging out and different stuff for our WFO universe. But if you're just a random person who's thinking of going to a race, you cannot go wrong going to Vegas. This year, though, there might be another track that everybody has to go to. This year, though, you might want to immediately take enough money to go to a flyaway race and put it in a special spot. You might want to do that. We'll see. All right, let's see what other people say. Derek says, "Hey, Joe, do you know why Jeff was wearing Hagan's fire suit?" Okay, I've seen this question. You guys are like enamored by the craziest things. I don't know this. I haven't watched the full TV show. I haven't seen it. But let's use our imaginations. And I'm not scolding anyone, but like what are the possible reasons? Jeff wanted to share Matt's DNA, and he knows that the sweat of Matt Hagan is victory sweat, and was trying desperately, and look, it worked. There's a reason, right? Or maybe Jeff's fire suit had a hole in it, and they said, you can't wear this and you need to find another one. And Matt Hagan was nice enough to let him use an older one. Like, there's a couple of different possibilities. I can't confirm right now, but it could be either of those. It could be that Jeff Deal wanted to share the spirit animal of Matt Hagan by wearing his clothing articles, or that Matt Hagan wanted Jeff Deal to wear his fire suit so that Jeff's attractive wife, Lisa, might become confused and come on to Hagan. Or maybe he just needed a fire suit because something was wrong with him, with his. It could be either of those. Now, there are no bad questions, but some questions should be able to be figured out without this level of detail, I think. Costello's being mean to his audience. I'm not being mean. Just like, there's so many. What's the $100, Alan Reinhart? There's so many questions. Who knows? All right, guys. Thank you very much. WFO. Hopefully you guys are great. I had a great time. Vegas was incredible. The only negative was the airport tram breaking on my way from the check-in security area to the gates. They have no other means for people to get from the one section of the airport to the D gates. There's nothing. There's no other way. Can you walk there? You can't. How do you get people there when the tram breaks? We don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, we don't know. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to walk as a group to this area, and maybe we'll get some buses. And so we go down to the area, and we're waiting for the buses, and we're waiting, and the buses don't come, and there's no buses. And then finally they're like, oh, no, we got the tram working again. The tram is working. And I rode the tram. Let's see what else. We got some photographs that I want to share. Austin Prock at the conclusion of the Big Long Oil Down. Michael Heiner. Hear it from Heiner. You got to listen. Whenever I go to Vegas, I think about my buddy, Mark Lyle. Great moment, great spot. Miss that guy tremendously. Shelby Williams getting ready to roll out for Super Stock. Awesome. The Foggett Camaro. Bailey Ferraro from hometown South Florida, professional bracket racer, was at his very first NHRA national event. Tony Stewart, Matt Hagan in the winner's circle. Yes. Jerry Haas and the blue. Everybody loves the blue. And the McPhillips getting ready for the final round. Oh, man, we had ourselves a great time. All right, guys, Charlotte, East Coast, it's your time to shine. Get your tickets. We'll see you at the Bellagio. Of course, I'll be back later in the week with more WFO. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alan.